Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Tech Podcast series where we're digging into the latest trends and insights shaping the tech industry. Right here, we talk about copilots, here we talk about the generative AI, here we talk about LLMs, and also we invite all the industry leaders to learn from their ideas and how they are building and shaping the industry and what are their thoughts about the current emerging tech trends in the market. Right, I'm Lakshit Pant, your host for today, and we have our industry guest speaker, special guest joining us, Mr. Devesh Gangal. He's the senior marketing manager at Seclore, a leading organizations in the data security solutions. First of all, welcome Devesh, and thanks for being a part of this podcast. Let's quickly start this podcast with a quick introduction of yourself. If you could introduce yourself first.
Sure, Lakshit. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a real honor to be here. Uh, so, about me, I have about, let's say, over a decade of experience in dealing with B2B IT services organizations, wherein I pander to complete 360-degree marketing, which includes your digital media marketing, your account-based marketing, your demand generations, the whole spectrum from brand management to lead generation as well. So I have worked with Indian market, European market, North American market, and ASEAN market as well. So I have kind of an experience of what kind of messaging, what kind of creatives and everything just flies in different regions, as we call it. So yeah, that's a little bit about me on the professional front. If we want to talk about what I've done in the past, so before joining Seclore, I was actually working with Borzo, which was previously known as VFast. So I was the country marketing head for VFast as well. So again, here that the role was pretty similar, where I was taking care of the branding strategies and I was leading the reformative technologies and everything. And apart from all the professional work, I am also a trained speaker, a coach, and a national level debate and panel discussion champion and group discussion champion as well.
Wow.
There was a time when I was a radio job.
Yeah, pleasure to have you here, right? So, Devesh, let's start by reflecting on Seclore's journey. Since when I was doing my homework for this podcast, I saw this. You guys have recently raised $27 million Series C funding, right? I just wanted to know how has the organization been evolving, and what's the new initiative that you have been focusing on, and is there any particular segment you guys have been targeting? So, what's the initial thought at present after for the next level expansion?
Yeah, as I think most of our viewers would also be aware of, Secure is one of the country's leading uh, provider of data security, data-centric security, I would say, where we help them secure their sensitive information, right from on-premises to whenever they kind of share it across the spectrum as well. So we kind of add a layer of security to whatever existing security channels that they have, right? So we have email encryptions, we have DMS, we have content specific securities as well. So this is what in a very quick nutshell Seclore is all about. We are proud to be an Indian company. We were founded in India, but now Seclore has gone global to a major extent. We have offices now, and we are keep pandering to clients from North America region, Middle East region, KSA, Kuwait, Africa, Europe, and now we are also planning to venture into the ASEAN region as well. So now we are completely capturing the globe in a protective care cover, as you can call it.
Wow, that sounds like a fantastic plan, right? So, if we talk, I really loved your the proactive approach in such a dynamic landscape, right? And with a rapid digital transformation that we are witnessing at present in the industry, right? How do you see the role of cybersec evolving, and what challenges do the organization face in navigating these landscape, right? How do you see this?
So I mean, whether it be a small startup, whether it be a small medium enterprise, or a large enterprise of Fortune 500 companies, cybersecurity today is non-negotiable, and it's moving from just hardware like a firewall or something like that to now content specific, where each and every email, each and every Excel file, each and every document that is being shared has to be encrypted, so that the privacy of the employees and the privacy of the company has to be maintained. So this is where I think Seclore is moving towards that as well, where we are now focusing on content specific security. I think that is content centric security would be the right word to use this way. Going ahead, as you know, in India, a new law that has been passed, which is the DPDP Act, which actually tells you that each and every organization has to be compliant according to this law. So if you're not compliant, there's the first level of charges would be around 250 CR for the first level of infringement, and for the second level of infringement, it will be imprisonment for about 5 years. 2 to 5 years. I'm not sure about that number, but the person, the CISO, would be the person directly responsible for it. No matter where the infringement has happened in the chain of command or anything, the CISO would be responsible. So it has become doubly important for every organization and every CISO to kind of make sure that the content is compliant to the DPDP, which is digital protection and data protection, um, to ensure that privacy yet security is maintained.
We will talk about this DPDP Act in some time, right? But still, I just wanted to revolve the podcast around the tech companies that are reinventing the marketing in B2B space, right? How do you see this happening? This the magic happening inside the industry, right? And what's the difference you have observed over these decades?
Um, so I think it's very different how you reach out to a B2C client, where where it's direct to consumer, or a B2B. The kind of marketing that you kind of do is very different in both these segments. If you're focusing on B2B, there's a lot of focus which kind of goes into creating thought leadership content. Now, what I mean by thought leadership content is the content which kind of appeals to all the top management people. Whether it be a white paper, whether it be a case study, whether it be a fact sheet, whether we talk about a podcast like we are doing one right now, or whether it be a webinar. These kind of pieces which kind of educate people more rather than throwing the information on their faces. This is something that which is, I think, a lot of tech companies are doing in the B2B domain. So that's one part of it. The second part that is being taken care is called the ABM, which is account based marketing, where it's very targeted, very specific messaging is going to very specific people to understand their pain points and to make sure that we resolve their issues in a customized manner. Because every organization has a very specific pain point. We can't have a one stop solution for everything. But what we can do is we can customize solutions for each and every individual company. So that's where ABM comes into picture. That's another thing. And third thing, I think, is doing a lot of events, trade shows, exhibitions, and places where we do a lot of demand generation as well, a lot of branding as well, wherein we also call people for panel discussions, or whether it be debates, or and all the other stuff. The important aspect is education. The whole crux that we are trying to do is making people aware that, okay, this is the problem that you are facing, this is the potential problem that you might face, and this is where a company like Seclore, or other B2B tech companies can come into the picture and take it ahead from there. Like, for example, we have a flagship event for Seclore, which is called Security Now. It has been going on for past 8 years every year. We have more than 250 CISOs coming in from all over the country, attending that event, and there we see that people are more interested in understanding, in getting the core messaging out of it, and then implementing those things into their companies. You see, we have about a 90% run rate of hot leads generated through Security Now, which is, I think, very incredible to see.
Oh, that's very sound, and that sounds really interesting, right? And now, just navigating a podcast to maybe the DPDP Act, right? As we were speaking earlier about it, how do you and anticipate it will impact the marketing strategy, and especially in the tech sector if we talk about.
So there's been an age-old debate which goes on, privacy versus security. To what level can you compromise on privacy to make sure that the security is maintained, and how important is security so that the privacy cannot be deterred? So DPDP Act kind of makes very clear that you know protection of data is of the paramount importance. It makes sure that whatever messaging, whatever figures, whatever information that is being transmitted, that is being transmitted not only internally but externally as well, has to be secure. So I think this is where the change in mindset has to come in for a lot of especially Indian organizations. A lot of change in mindset, change in adaptability has to come in, and that's where I think, as we talked about earlier, a lot of education is required. People still are not very aware of what a DPDP Act is and how does it impact the business. If I was a CISO, if I was a CTO, I would be scared. I would be really scared of going to prison or having a 250 CR fine imposed on me for just one infraction. So it's very important to make sure that companies like Seclore or other companies who are out there who are working in the similar domain educate the people of India that okay, this is a law, this is what happens, this is where we can help you protect your data. This is where we can come in and make sure that that 250 CR is not gone out of your pocket. So I think it's very important that we do a lot of thought leadership contents, we do seminars, we do events, and make people aware about what that DPDP Act actually is.
Wow, wow, that sounds like a great plan. And I just wanted to ask this question to you. Like when we talk about cybersecurity in the age of IoT, right? There has been multiple significant challenges, right, in terms of adoption, in terms of data and privacy, and then we talk about the DPDP Act as well, right? How do you see from a marketing background does it affect to the entire landscape from a business perspective, and how does it leverages any B2B business to grow, or how it affects any particular business?
See, IoT is like a double-edged sword. If we talk about it from a marketing perspective, if I talk about it, and from a cybersecurity marketing, especially if I talk about it, IoT has come out as a double-edged sword, wherein we see a lot of growth potential in it. We see a lot of companies moving towards it, implementing it, but at the same time, there are a lot of risks associated with it. Right from you know, let's call upon data privacy, security, data leaks, and everything that are happening. So it's a very thin line to navigate. And again, I think the theme of this conversation has to be around education. So we have to kind of educate people to make sure that even if we are using technology, we have to make sure that we use technology to a certain extent. We don't over depend on things like an IoT or an AI or something like a Chat GPT or all the other mid journeys and everything that is out there, because they're very appealing to a marketer. Like, oh, we just write a content and design is done and everything is done. It's very appealing, but they actually are learning from us. If I put in something, you can actually go to Chat GPT and search Google's branding strategy. What is Google's branding strategy? If somebody from Google has actually done that, help Chat GPT put in that thing, they can actually give you the whole strategy that what Google is doing from a branding perspective. I mean, think about it. The person who is doing it, he's just creating a design. He just uploaded a document that okay, create image using this is the brand template. Now you can actually go to Chat GPT and just pick out that thing and implement it for your business. Now, where is the security in it? Can you imagine how you can be oblivious that this is happening to you? This is where a lot of data leaks are happening today. This is why a lot of cybersecurity threats are happening today. We read in the newspapers, we read in the articles today that every major organization is suffering through this. whether it be a Fortune 500 company or even a small startup. Everybody is suffering through this. So that's why I say educating people about the pros and cons is very important.
Yeah, and the other day when I was doing a podcast with one of the cybersec leader, right? He has mentioned a very fair point that I always keep with myself. That is, cybersecurity. All these attacks doesn't happen because of vulnerable system. It happens because of the system. The person sitting behind those systems, right? Every time there'll be some person leaking, maybe installing some kind of leaks, clicking on that spam link or whatever, right? So it's because of the uneducated person who is sitting behind that chair, right? So yeah, that's a very valid point to say. But again, we when we talk about these points, right, it's more from a industry perspective. But from a customer experience perspective, how do you see AI navigating the role in shaping these tech solutions? How do you see?
So if I'm looking at it, if I'm a marketing guy, okay, I'm creating something good for the customer, but my customer is, uh, let's say, a government official who is at a top place. He would not care about how attractive the design is or where am I putting, the kind of language that I'm using. It's what is the value add that I can give to that person. You understanding my point? So we kind of put a lot of focus on arbitrary things right now when we talk about AI, right? We talk about great copy being generated. We talk about great creatives being created, but the person who's actually sitting there, the mind behind it, the subject matter expert, knows more and will always know more than an AI because he's a subject matter expert. So for me, it's good to be, it's good to have AI, and everything is good to have for the touch ups. But the basic structure and everything has to come from a subject matter expert who can add value to what we are trying to give it to the customer. So when we are giving to the end customer, the packaging, the designing, and everything, a good caption and everything can go from there. But the main crux, the message, has to go from a subject matter expert, which I think will never change, as far as you have educated people behind this disc.
Yeah, definitely. And now it's more from a form because I really wanted to understand from you. You have been working in this industry, you have been a jack of this trade, right? What's working out for these Gen Z people, right, in the industry from a marketing perspective? Because every single industry is just trying, no one knows the right strategy that will work out for any particular product, right? So it's like everyone is just trying out some different things, like what would work out, no one knows in this particular strategy, like for especially for Gen Z people, every time, every single, every second, the thought is changing. So how to make a particular strategy, it's not gonna work, right? A particular strategy definitely not gonna work. And we have seen examples like what Zomato and Swiggy use, Blanket, all these organizations are doing some new ways of marketing and all, right? So how do you see the marketing has been a little bit evolved, right? What would be the ideal way for any product, pitching out there for these industries and trying to secure these new users from a Gen's perspective?
It's, I think, what works for a company. You As I said earlier, they cannot be a glove which fits everybody, right? Same is in the marketing. What Swiggy and Zomato do from a branding or a marketing perspective, we cannot implement in a B2B IT cybersecurity space. We cannot go to let's say we cannot go to a manufacturing company and say, hey, 50% discount, we miss you, come and we'll give you a 50% discount. We can't go and use that kind of language. So to journalize that marketing overall is changing would be very would be not right, I would say. There are certain aspects of marketing which are evolving, which is the good thing, but the core, the crux will always remain the same. If you are doing B2B marketing, doing events, doing thought leadership content, doing webinars, podcasts, the chain will remain the same. If you're doing, let's say, a B2C company, right? If you're creating quirky messaging, if you're creating quirky designs, if you're creating all of those interesting messaging, that works for them, but that might not be able to translate it to B2B. So If a Gen Z is coming in, it's very important for people to understand that saying that I work in digital marketing does not cover everything. There's SEOs involved, there's keywords involved, there's social media involved. Nobody can create two reels and say that I'm a digital marketing guy now. You have
Correct.
to find your niche. You have to find your niche. What is one thing that makes you good? Are you good at designing? Are you good at creativity? Are you good at maybe learning analytics or something like that? So that understanding that niche is going to be very important.
Wow, that's very a valid point, I would say. And thank you, Devesh, for sharing all your insights and on these important topics, right? Before we wrap up, right, do you have any final thoughts or advice for our listeners, especially those who are working in the tech industry, especially, right?
Well, I'll always say that there's this very famous quote that I use. If you keep on doing the same things that you have been doing, you'll keep on achieving the same things you have been achieving. So don't be afraid to reinvent the wheel. There's always that one guy who can be the next Bill Gates or who can be the next Jeff Bezos. Until unless
Right.
you won't try, you would never know. So don't be afraid to take risks. We in Indians have been, we won't take risks. We are very conservative people, So even what you're doing, just try and evolve yourself. Just try and come out of your shell. So that's all I have to say.
Wow, wow. Thank you for all those kind insights, Devesh, and thank you for joining for this podcast. But it was my kind pleasure to host you for this podcast today. And as we conclude today's podcast, we are coming up with lots of new initiatives that will talk a lot more about tech trends, innovations, and tech industry. So until then, stay tuned, everyone, and thank you for joining us. And thank you, Devesh, for your grateful for your time always. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.